Right. So, of course, depending with how the examiners would want to structure the paper, all right? But work is one of the big topics, all right, for MAC 3702. So we should actually know how to do the calculations of work, all right? Should anyone needs possibly additional questions like past papers and all that, I do have a pack as well with past papers as well as the solutions there. All right. And also, I believe they gave you a question bank, right, which is some questions as well that you can also practice in this regard. So I strongly encourage you to actually look at these calculations, right, of course, in different questions. So let's look at question 2 and see how they examined work. All right, so the first part, as you can see, there's 20 marks there. It says calculate the weighted average cost of capital of SF Group Limited at 31 March 2020. All right, so question 2, that was 50 marks. Smart Farming Group, that is SF Group thereafter, is the largest agricultural company listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. SF Group's head office is located in the heart of the Limpopo province with 25 well-established farms all over Africa. The revenue stream is primarily from sheep and crops. So it's important when you're reading the background information, you need to understand what does your company do. So here our company does that. The sheep enterprise produces high-quality lamb and wool, and crops production includes corn, wheat, and soybean. SF Group is a supplier to Carry-Right Holdings, which is the largest food retailer across Africa. 65% of the revenue generated by SF Group is from Carry-Right Holdings, and the remainder is from the other food retailer. Right, so it's important as well when you see on the background information, they're giving you numbers, right? So when you're reading, right, in the exam, you should highlight that, right? As you might find out that you might need to use those numbers somewhere, all right? It's 31 March 2020, all right? So it's important. Do you see at 31 March 2020, SF Group's share was trading at 9,650 cents each, right? Let's go there and see. What is our year end? Do you see here? You are preparing for 31 March 2020. Now, let's look at what does this information mean? All right, so 31 March 2020. The share was trading at 9,000. So it was trading at 9,650. Right. So in this regard, what does this mean? It means now the market value of the shares on 31 March 2020 was 9,650 cents. That is what it means. Remember, as you go by, you're going to find out now that you're going to need to do the calculation of market value of equity. Now, you are told each share is actually sitting at 9,650. So that is your market value per share. All right. So that's why I'm saying it's very important, right, that as you'll be reading the background information, you take note of such information there. All right. The shareholders expect a dividend payout of 9.25% for the period under review. Now, what does this mean? Dividend payout, right? 9.25%. So it means the shareholders are expecting to receive 9.25% of company profit. All right, that is what it means, all right, in regards to this information. So in terms of this, that is basically what it means with respect to this information. All right, so let's quickly look at the next part. And then, do you see the shareholders expected dividend payout of 9.25% for the period under review, and the expected constant annual growth rate of 8.25%. Constant growth rate.
I didn't like all that screen time on travel.
So there is a constant growth rate of 8.25. Right. What does it mean? Or where are you going to use this information? So it's very important that as you be going on with your studies, you understand now that, remember, the question is asking you for weighted average cost of capital. Now, you bring your memory, you have to say, okay, so when I'm calculating WACC, I need market value, equity. So you see, okay, so the market value for equity, you have 96.50 cents per share, which means, okay, fine. Now, what is the next thing that you need? You need cost of equity, all right? What do you need in regards to cost of equity? We said we have two methods that we use to calculate cost of equity. We said we have capital asset pricing model, all right? All right, and then we have dividend growth model. All right, these are the two methods that we said we have with regards to cost of equity. But here on the scenario, we are given information on dividends. So which means now you now know that, okay, so in regards to the information which they gave me, all right, they give me information about dividend payouts, which means now I'm going to use my formula for dividends. All right, and then let's proceed. So Zoe Africa, the Chief Operations Officer of SF Group, recently embarked on developing a program that will transform the agricultural industry. The program was designed to introduce effective information access on how farmers can use their cell phone application to assess their productivity. This initiative will hopefully increase the market value of the company share by 3.5%. The program will require an initial investment of 30 million. So you highlight all that information, even if you don't use it for work, but you'll find that you might need it for the next required. The CEO started a series of communications with various stakeholders that will assist with the program, especially telecommunication institutions that specialize in coding. The company aims to secure new graduates to be part of its workforce. This development was released in a new technology magazine, and the company secretary has indicated to the CEO that there are companies which are interested in partnering with CF Group in this new venture. Subsequently, the company announced that interested parties will have to submit the following: a brief business plan together with their 5-year forecast, details on synergies that can be unlocked, latest audited annual financial statement. The submissions will be assessed, and only 2 companies which score favorably on the above will be considered for selection. The directors of SF Group presented as part of the annual report the annual financial statements for the period ending 31 March 2020. All right, so we have information, the statements looking like that, and then statement of profit and loss looking like that, and then notes to the financial statement. The company has 500,000 authorized shares, of which 60% has been issued. Now, I know we did touch on this, but let's discuss authorized shares versus issued shares. All right, so when we are doing calculations, we use issued shares, not authorized shares. All right, so it's very important that we understand that in all the calculations that you're going to be doing on the studies will deal with issued shares, not authorized shares. Authorized shares is the maximum number of shares a company can sell. All right. But now issued shares are the shares the company has already sold. But so in this case, we only deal with the shares that the company has already sold to owners. That is what we deal with. We don't care about what the memorandum is saying. So the memorandum of a company, it will say you are only allowed to sell this much number of shares. That is what we call authorized number of shares. So when you're doing the calculation of WACC or any other type of calculation, always remember that you're dealing with issued shares, not authorized number of shares there. All right, so it's quite important that we understand. All right. All right. So let's look at the next part, all right, in that regard. So we given the shares and then two borrowings. The borrowings are made up of the following: long-term loans. SF Group obtained a loan of 17 million from Land Bank on 1st of April 2019 at an interest rate of 15%. And the interest payment is made annually. This loan is secured by the company's property, plant, and equipment, and the capital is payable on 31st March 2029. The interest rate on similar loans is at prime less 50 basis points. All right, so in this regard, I believe you guys now know what is a basis points. All right, I'm sure you've heard about the basis points a countless number of times. All right, so in this regard, it's important that we're looking at it like this. All right, so but now the question that now worries us, all right, is for you now to convert the basis points into percentages. All right, so basis points into percentage. All right, so to convert basis points to percentage, we divide by 100. All right, so in this case, the given basis point, so basis points to percentage. So in this case, we take basis point by 100. So that is what will give us the conversion of the basis points into percentage. So you just divide by 100 there. All right, so that's how you go about it in that regard. All right, so which means when you have 50 basis points, you take 50 divided by 100 there. All right, and then corporate bonds, the 9.5% corporate bonds are currently considered part of the permanent capital structure. What does it mean? All right, so in terms of these guys, when you see the word permanent capital structure, if you recall when we looked at the question, when we discussed about weighted average cost of capital, we said weighted average cost of capital, we use medium to long-term sources of finance. All right. So when you see a short-term source of finance, like for example, bank overdraft, all right, if they tell you a bank overdraft is considered permanent source of capital structure, then it means you also have to include it when you're doing the calculation of WACC. All right. So let's just write that down, right? When they state that a bank overdraft, right, is part of permanent source of finance or permanent capital structure, also included in calculating WACC, right, for weighted average cost of capital. But anyways, so we're given corporate bonds are currently considered part of the permanent capital structure and will mature on 31 March 2027. They carry a pre-tax total interest expense of 590,000. Right, I believe you guys still recall. We said debt, right? That is long-term loans, bonds, and debentures. We always work with after-tax amounts. So of course, we're going to come back, all right, and do the calculation of the after-tax amounts in that regards. And then I told similar bonds are trading at 150 basis points above the prime rate. So we'll come back. And then debentures, the 2.5 million debentures carry an interest rate of 7.35%, will be redeemed on 31 March 2026. So our instrument will be redeemed there. At the time of redemption, SF Group will pay the debenture holders an extra 80,000, which is deductible for tax purposes. The average going interest rate in the market for such debentures is estimated as 9.35% per annum. All right, so this is the information we had. Let's go to additional information. All right. So, under additional information, SF Group will make an offer based on the following assumptions. All right. Farm 2 acquired by Sami Moon, all right, and Farm 2 in exchange for a stake in SF Group. SF Group will pay shares for every share held in Farm 2. With regards to Farm 2, the growth rate after 2022 will be 5%, and the required rate of return is estimated at 17.25. The general inflation rate, 6.25%. All right, so basically that is the information which we are actually given there. All right, so now let's look at answering our question, all right, so that we can see what is going on. All right. Now we want to do the calculation of WACC. All right. So October 2020 paper. All right, question 2. Weighted average cost of capital. Right, now what do we do when we want to do the calculation of weighted average cost of capital? So we do source, all right? We draw our table. So we do source, all right? Market value. Right, so it's source market value. Right, I know you guys are more presentable, so let's just try to match that. Then, so we just create some space there. All right, so we have market value, weight, cost. Then we have the last one for WACC. All right. So let's identify our sources of finance. All right. So we have, in regards to the sources of finance, we have equity, of course, all right, which is the information that they gave us there at the top there. All right. So let's deal with equity. All right. So we have equity. All right. So in this regard, our first instrument, all right, we are looking at equity. All right. Now let's quickly now do the calculation in terms of the equity. All right. So in terms of this part, all right, let's quickly go and see now which information do we have in regards to equity. All right. So so that we'll be able to answer this part. So we go back to the information that we read. So we saw there, they gave us the market value of equity per share. Do you see that? So that means this is our market value of equity, all right, per share, of course. So let's do workings. So you leave some space and then we do work. So start off with equity, all right? So market value of equity. All right, we want to work out how much is the market value of equity. So price or market value per share, all right? So we're given market value per share, right? So they gave us the background information. So we told on 31 March 2020, this is the price at the end of the year, right? So each share was trading at 9,650 cents. Right? So you have 9,650 cents. To convert this to rand, what do? You divide by 100, right? So in this case, 9,650 divided by 100. So it gives you, so which means each share is actually trading at 96 rand 5 cents. Now, the next thing is to determine number of issued shares, right? Want to determine now, so how many issued shares, right, did we issue? So we take the market price per share multiplied by the number of issued shares. So that's how we're going to do the calculation. So let's see in regards to this, right? So we go down where they talk about authorized number of shares, right? So as you can see, right, under this part, so it told the company has 500,000 authorized shares, of which 60% has been issued, all right? So in this regard, 60% has been issued. So which means now authorized, the issued number of shares will be 60% times the authorized number of shares. So the authorized is 500,000. Right, which means now the issued number of shares will be 60% of 500,000. Right, which will take us to 300,000. Then market value of equity. So you're going to take now 300,000 times 96.5. Right, so which will give us, so it will take us to this amount. Is the N1 was lost so far? N1, guys?
So far, I understand.
Okay. Others?
So far, I'm following as well.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So in that regards, if everyone is following, that is fine. Now let's look at the next thing. So we now have the market value of equity. You know, the next thing, we want to determine cost of equity. Right. But before we forget, let's record. Remember, we have worked out the market value. So we record it in the column for market value there. Right? So you come to your table for work. Right? So you've already done the calculation of market value for equity. So you record it there. Now let's do the calculation of cost for equity. All right, that is step number 2 now in regards to this. So how are we going to do the calculation of cost for equity? All right. So we go to the information there at the top. All right, what did they give us? So we are now told that in regard to this, you are given information about dividends. All right, so of course, we did touch a little bit in that regard where they told us that. So we're told each share is trading at 9,650 cents ish. The shareholders expected dividend payout of 9.25% for the period under review. All right. So now what does it mean? So it means we are given information on dividends. So which means cost is going to be, we use the dividend growth formula, of course. All right. What does our dividend growth formula mean? All right. So we take D1, which stands for future dividends, right? So we said D1 divided by market value, right? PV, right? And then we add everything plus growth, right? That is what we use, right? In regards to when we are given information on dividend, right? And then we said when we are given information on risk and beta, we use the formula risk-free plus beta, open bracket, market risk minus risk-free. That is what we have. But anyways, in this case, we are given information on dividends. All right. So let's quickly work out now what is going on. So we are told the shareholders expects a dividend payout of 9.25 for the period under review. Which period is under review? The current year. That one March 2020 is the year that we're doing a review for. Right, so which means now the shareholders, right, are expecting current dividend equal to payout times profit. Right? So in this regard, the shareholders are expecting a dividend now of, so in this case, let's quickly look at it. Right? So they're expecting 9.25% of what? Of profit for the current year. So let's quickly look at how much is the profit for 2022. Right? So in this regard, we're given the profit for 2022, which is 30151. Right? But if you check at the top, they sliced 3 zeros. So it's 30,151,000. Right. So in this case, 30,151,000, like this. This is the dividend that they are expecting now. So you have 9.25% times 3151. So this is the dividend for now. But what is your D1? It's equal to future dividend. I'm sure you guys still recall. So we said D1 stands for dividend for the following year, which is the future dividend. Now, what did they tell us, right, in regards to the information? So we are told that shareholders expect a dividend of 9.25, right? But they're expecting a constant annual growth of 8.25. So which means now the current year dividend, right, is supposed to increase by 8.25 in order to give us a future dividend. So which means 27,889,67.5. We multiply that by 0.0825. All right. Or I showed you guys, if someone forgets, all right, or is not familiar with where are we getting the 1.0825, all right, you could have just said 278,896.7.5 plus 278,896.5 multiplied by 8.25%. So they both give the same answer. All right, so in this regard, this is what will give you your future dividend. All right, so it will look like this. I just had to take the longer route, of course, right? Because I need to make sure that you guys understand all the steps before we start taking the shortcuts. All right, so we have it looking like that. So which means now, all right, cost of equity. All right, you now have your future dividend, of course. So you have 30,19057. Then you divide it by present value. All right, so you did work out your present value there. So your present value of equity, you saw the market value was that amount. So you divide by 289,500,000. All right, then you add plus what? Plus growth rate. So in this regard, how much is your growth rate? 8.25. So you convert it to decimal, 0.0825. So that is what will give you your cost of equity. I don't know if there's anyone who feels lost.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
I've missed the calculation of the 1.0825. How did we get to that one? Or is it given?
All right, no, I'll be with you just now. All right. Okay, let me just convert this into percentage so that we can just finalize there. All right, so it will take us to 18.7. Right, so the question now, right, is how did you come up with the 1.0825? That is the question, right? All right, so in this case, if you feel lost, right, in regards to this calculation, so there are two ways, right, that you can go about this. All right, so D1, so alternative 41. Right, if you feel lost. So you could have said 2788,967.5 plus what? 2788,967.5 times 8.25%. That is what it means, right? Future dividend is growing at 8.25. We take the current dividend, then we add the growth, right? That is what it means, right? I don't know if you're comfortable with this step so far.
Comfortable.
Okay, right, perfect. Let's see if they give both answers before we explain the other step there. Right. So you see they give both the same answer. So what happens? Where did the 1.0825 coming from? So what we did is we said that 2788,967.5 is 100%, right? That is 100%. So on top of this 100%, you are adding 8.25%, right? That is where the 1 is coming from. So it will give you 10825. So 108.25%. Right. 108.25%. In decimals, it gives us how much? You can just divide by 100. You know, so if you divide this amount by 100, it will give you 1.0825. All right, but it's just a shortcut way of doing it. But if you feel confused, you can continue using this one. They both give the same answer.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. All right. Any other questions, guys? Yeah, cool. So we now have 18.7 as our cost of equity. Then you record cost of equity 18.7%. All right. So we now have that. All right. Let's move on now to the next instrument. So we're done with equity, right? Now, what is our next instrument? So in this regard, we have borrowings, right? So we have long-term loans. So you write down long-term loans. That is our next instrument. Then you go to workings, all right? You're done with equity. You're now moving to long-term loans. Right, let's see now in terms of long-term loans, what is happening. SF Group obtained a loan of 17 million from Land Bank on 1st of April 2019. Now, here's the problem that most of you guys do, right? Based on my experience, of course. Most students, what they do now is, because we received 17 million, they want to take that amount as the market value of the loan. That is incorrect, guys. All right, they have to tell you that the market value of the instrument is this much, or else you'll be forced to calculate it. So don't always think that the amount that you receive is the market value of the instrument. That is not the case. All right, so they received 17 million on 1st of April 2019 at an interest rate of 15%. Another mistake that most of you also do is we take the interest rate, which they're giving us 15%, as the cost of the loan. That is also incorrect. The cost of a loan, debenture, or bond, it will be the market value. All right, so in this case, let me just write a little bit of notes there. The cost of loan or debenture will be market value of similar instruments. And also when you do the calculation of the cost, so always remember that the cost of loan or debenture is the market value of similar instrument. It will be after tax. Let's just use after tax market value of similar instruments. So always remember that. All right. But anyways, let's proceed. The interest payment is made annually. This loan is secured by the company's property, plant, and equipment, and the capital is payable on 31 March 2029. The interest rate on, do you see, similar loan is at a prime interest rate less 150 basis points. What does it mean? It means now the market interest rate, right, in regards to this will be sitting at prime interest rate minus 50 basis point. So let's quickly go and see in this regard, what is the prime interest rate? Right? So here's the information about prime interest rate. You see they gave you the rates, right? And then they gave you the prime interest rate. So in 2022, our prime interest rate was 9.25. Right? So cost, right? So the cost is equal to prime interest rate plus what? Prime interest rate plus 50 basis points, right? So it's prime interest rate plus 50 basis points. All right. So how do you go about it? All right. So we saw prime rate. All right. They gave us the in the question. Of course, they gave us the prime rate as 9.25. Yeah, so we have 9.25 as our prime rate. So we are going to take 9.25, which is our prime, plus 50 basis points is the same as what? 50 divided by 100. So which means now the market value is going to be 9.25 plus 50 over 100. Well, I believe you guys won't forget this, right? So which means now the cost of our instrument before tax, right, of course, is going to be 9.75. Then we multiply with an after-tax rate. Let's quickly see what is our tax rate in this regard. All right. So the tax rate is where they gave us rates, so it's 20%. All right, so on this question, tax rate was 20%. So we take this, we multiply it with after tax rate. So 20%, we take 100 minus 20%, it gives us 72%. So the after tax amount, we just multiply by 72%. In the current year, remember your tax rate is 27%. So you take 100 minus 27, it will give you 73%. So what do you do now? Right? So to get an after tax amount, you could have said this times 100 minus 28%. So that's what will give us the 27 that we used there. So which would mean, right, the cost of our instrument, it will be sitting at this amount there. So it's 7.02%, right? So that is the cost that we have in regards to the long-term loans. So in this case, it is, let's just quickly see, is it after? Oh, it's less, not plus, eh? So that means there's a minus there, right? 9.25 less, that means we deduct the basis point. So always watch out that regard. So our cost is 6.3%. So then record cost of long-term loan. So we have 6.3%. Now we need to do the market value now of our long-term loan. Right. So market value of long-term loan. Right. Let's see what is happening there. All right. So we received a loan of 17 million from Land Bank. All right. And then on 1st of April 2019, at an interest rate of 15%, the interest payment is made annually. All right. The loan is secured by the company property, right, and the equipment. And the capital is payable on 31 March 2029. Now, think about it. So, MAC, guys, you don't need to think about it in isolation. All right? Think about it this way. maybe you have a friend, right? Your friend gives you a loan, a soft loan. So they lend you a soft loan, and then they tell you, in regards to the soft loan, all right, you need to pay me interest every month or every year. And then after maybe 5 years or so, I want you to repay me back my original amount. That is what this loan is about, right? So which means now, in terms of this loan, you ignore the amount that you received, the 17 million. So you want to do future value. Do you see? You're going to repay 17 million, right? When are you going to repay the 17 million? You're going to repay this amount in 2029. So in 2029, you are going to repay that amount. Now, every year, how much are you going to be paying as interest? Do you see? So here you are told on 1st of April 2019 at an interest rate of 15%, and the interest payment is made annual, which means now every year you're going to be paying 15% of the 17 million. So in that regard, you have your PMT, which is your installment. So your installment is going to be 15% of 17 million. Right. But however, because interest on loan is tax deductible, so you always multiply with 72%. All right. So whenever you're dealing with loans and debentures, your PMT and your interest rate, they always have to be after tax. All right. So in this regards, which means your PMT, which is the amount that you'll be paying, all right, you multiply with 72%. So in this case, 72% is after tax amount. Then you have your I. You did work out your I there. It was 6.3%. Right? After tax amount, your I, you have that. And then N. So N, guys, don't get confused. N, you don't calculate N from the date that you received this. So in this case, your N is from 31 March 2020, which is the end of the current year, going forward. So you're saying how many years have remained? You know, so N is equal to how many years left from year end, not from issue date, but from year end. So we want to say how many years are left from this loan from the issue date. So we received the loan on April, but however, year end is 31 March 2020. So we have 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So our N will be sitting at 9. All right. So you then record your N as 9 there. Then you compute present value. Right? This will be the market value of your instrument. I want you guys to see something. Do you see in this regard, in order to get the market value of your instrument, you have to use the market interest rate. Right. So you then do the computation of your PV. You guys have your financial calculators. You guys know how to use financial calculators or not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Okay,
Mm.
that's fine. That means I'll give you guys another class for financial calculator. All right. But anyways, in this regard, I'm just gonna use Excel, all right, to do the calculation of present value. All right. So I'm not sure if you guys work with Excel, all right, but if you want to do some calculations, right, Excel also helps you to do these calculations, right? So possibly I can give you guys an extra class where we do the usage of the financial calculator, right? But however, if you want to use Excel, you press equal sign, right, before you do anything in your formula. So you press equal sign. What are you looking for? PV. So you see, it will pull through PV, then you open your bracket, all right, like that. Then you see Excel is saying rate. What is our rate there? It's 6.3. So you record 6.3%. So that is our interest rate that we are dealing with there. So 6.3%. That's our interest rate. And then after that, we have N. So you insert the semicolon. So N, we saw our N is 9. So you enter 9, then you do the semicolon as well. Then you take it to PMT. So PMT 836,000. That's our PMT. Then you do your semicolon as well. Then future value is 17 million. So that's all that you need. You close your bracket, then you press the compute. So which means the present value of your loan is 22 million. So you then record it under these balances there. So you want all your amounts to be positive. So you record it like that. I'll show you guys how to use the financial calculators. Just make sure that everyone has a financial calculator. So I'll just give you guys maybe until month end, Let's just say month end, so that everybody has a chance to get a financial calculator. But if you don't have it, if you don't have a financial calculator, we need a financial calculator for calculation of WACC, net present value, IRR. You can always borrow from friends, but if you plan to pursue studies further, you definitely need a financial calculator. So if you have plans to pursue studies further, I recommend that you buy a financial calculator. But if you don't want to buy, you can of course borrow from friends, or alternatively, since you guys write virtual exams, you can of course learn to use Excel. Okay, cool. So we're done with the loan. Let's move on to the next part. So the next part is on corporate bonds. So we have corporate bonds. So let's look at it and see what is happening then. But now, before we do anything, corporate bonds, let's explain a little bit about corporate bonds and debentures. So guys, a bond, or debenture is a certificate, with rights and obligations. So a bond and a debenture is a certificate with rights and obligations. So it will be the terms and conditions that comes with that. So the first thing that you have on a bond and debenture is a coupon. So coupon amount. So a coupon, a coupon is actually an installment that you're expected to pay annually. So a coupon is installment that you're expected actually to pay annually. So what happens now is, in this regard, the bond, they'll be expecting you to, when you issue a bond, which means you receive the money. So that would mean now you'll be expected to repay installments each and every year. So that is the installments we classified, or they write it in the coupon amount. And then there's two what we call par value. Yes, so par value, this is the original value of the bond. So par value is the original value of the bond. So this is the value of the bond. So we call that the par value. So this is the value of the bond. So normally what happens now, coupon, coupon amount is equal to par value times coupon rate. So in this regard, if you want to calculate your installment, you use coupon rate multiplied by par value. So coupon rate, sometimes, depending with the examiner, they use interest. The bond is an interest of 10%. So you just multiply that 10% by par value. Also, another word for par value, they use the word face value. Right? Don't get confused. They use the word face value. Now, here's the challenge. Face value is different to fair value. All right, so please, guys, don't get confused. Fair value is different to face value or par value. All right, so in this case, fair value means the amount you issued the instrument. All right, so maybe some cases this is the amount that you issue. So you find that sometimes in terms of the bonds, in order to encourage people to buy your certificate, what do you do? So your certificate could be valued at 10,000, right? But to encourage people to buy, you can sell it at 9.5. So 9.5 will be the fair value, not par value. All right, so like I explained, there's a difference between the two. All right, so we always, all right, on bonds, always convert the par value or the coupon, amount to an after-tax amount, right? Remember that. Also, market interest on similar all right, always make sure it's after tax. Right? So the same way that we explained about borrowings, right, the long-term loans and all that. So always make sure that these amounts are always after tax. All right. So in this regard, that is how we go about it in terms of that part. All right. So that's basically what we have. Let's look at our question, right, so that we can see what is going on in that regard. All right. So in terms of this, all right, so in terms of this, let's look at our question, all right, so that we can see what's going on. So like I said, we have corporate bonds. So the 9.5, all right, let's break it down so that you guys will see what's going on. 9.5%, all right, it stands for coupon amount, all right? So sometimes they don't tell you that the coupon amount is this, all right? So you see here, the 9.5% corporate bonds. So here, the 9.5 stands for coupon amount. This is the amount that you're expecting to receive from the bond. All right. So the coupon amount is 9.5%, are currently considered part of the permanent capital structure and will mature 31 March 2027. They carry a pre-tax total interest expense of 590. Similar bonds are trading at 150 basis points above prime. So let's work out cost of bonds. All right, so cost of bond is equal to prime. So in terms of, I don't want you guys to cramp, but this is in regards to this question. So prime rate, so we're told similar bonds are trading at prime rate plus 150 basis points. You know, that is what they're telling us in the question. All right, so in this case, so our cost will be that multiplied by, remember we said always use after tax. So multiply by 72%. To convert them to after tax. So we take our prime rate. We saw prime was 9.25. All right, so prime rate 9.25%. All right, so which is going to be our cost. So we're going to take 9.25% plus 150 divided by 100. All right, and then we multiply everything by 72%. All right, so that's what will give us our answer. So we have 9.25, or just 9 plus 150 divided by 100. multiplied by 72%. All right. So to give us a cost of 7.74%. All right. So that is the cost that we have in regards to our instrument. All right. So you can just quickly record. All right. You can quickly record about the bond. So you have your bond. So you have 7.74%. So that is your cost of the bond. All right. Now let's look at the market value. All right. So the market value now, all right, in regards to the bonds, this part, it was a little bit tricky, of course. All right. We had to do some calculations. All right. Sorry about that. It's actually my daughter. So before she sleeps, she wants to see her father. Sorry about that. All right, but anyways, the market interest rate, the market value of our bonds. So now, what we need to do now is, we can see now we have, they gave us 590. That is our installment, all right, in regards to the bond. So we can do PMT, right? The PMT of our bond, of course, we're given as 590. So right, so we take the 590, right, times 72%. Like I said, we always use after tax amount. Right, so 590 times 72%. So PMT will be sitting there. Right. Now, this question was a little bit tricky in the sense that the students had to work backwards. All right, future value in regards to this. All right, so normally for bonds, the future value is the par value. All right, so in this regard, now you are told PMT is equal to 424,800. Now, how do you work back to calculate future value or the par value? So if you guys check, what did we say here? We said PMT is equal to par value times coupon rate. So which means now here you are given the coupon amount and the coupon rate. Now you want to determine your par value. How are you going to do that? Which means, of course, you can take the coupon amount divided by the coupon rate. That is what will give you your par value. All right, so let's quickly work it out and see what is going on. So which means future value now is going to be your coupon amount. All right, so in this regard, the coupon amount they gave you there is 590,000. All right, you divide that by your coupon rate. So the coupon rate is 9.5%. So you can just take 0.095. Right, or just 9.5%. That's what will give you par value. All right, which will be your future value. So this part, it was a little bit tricky, I have to be honest with you. They wanted to have me check if you guys are able to work backwards, in regards to the calculations. But anyways, through practice, of course, you definitely come right. And then I, right, so you did work out I, 7.74%. That's what we have as your I. Then you work out N, right? What is the duration of the bond from year end? So N, remember, it's redeemable in 2027. So you're coming from 2020, right? So you have 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So your N will be 7, all right? And then you compute present value there. You do the same, equal to PV. You open a bracket, so your rate is 7.74%, semicolon, N, 7. You do the same, semicolon, PMT, 424,800. All right, semicolon, future value 621,0526. You close, so to give you this balance. All right, so that's what you have as your present value of the bond. So even though the amount is negative, right, you record it as a positive amount there. Right, so negative, it just stands for cash outflow. It means money leaving the business. Right, so that's the part. Let's look at the last one. So we have debentures. Right, so you're looking at the debentures in that regard. Right, let's look at our debentures. Right, I might need to understand which calculators you guys are going to buy, right, if you don't have as yet. Right, but if you have, please let me know which calculators that you guys have. I know one could be having HP, the other one could be having Sharp, right, or the Texas B2 Plus, right? Of course, UNISA does not recommend that one, but it's still a good calculator there. So you just let me know, right, and then I'll see how best I can assist in that regard. So the debentures, we have 2.5 million debenture carrying interest rate of 7.35%. Now, what does the 7.35 mean? It means now this is your PMT, the interest amount. This is the amount that you're supposed to be paying every year. That is not your I, that is your PMT. Will be redeemed on 31 March 2026 at the time of redemption. So which means how much are you going to redeem? The 2.5 million. SF Group will pay the debenture holder an extra 80,000. So which means now you're going to redeem, right? Or you're going to pay 2.5 million plus 80,000. But the 80,000 you're told, which is deductible for tax purposes. Interesting. The average ongoing interest rate in the market for such debentures estimated at 9.35% per annum before tax. So which means, remember we said you use the market rate of similar instrument. Right? So which means your so of course cost. Right? So you're going to take the given amount for similar instrument, 9.35. So you take 9.35%, you multiply by 72%. So that's what will give you your I. So you have 9.35% multiply by, or just say 9.35 multiply by 72%. So it will take you to 6.732. Right? So your I, so you have 6.732. Or just 73%. So that's what you have as your I. Now let's do the market value of our instrument. So market value. So in regards to this, all right, I want you guys to pay a little bit of attention, right, in this regard. There was a little bit of some principles that we had to take note of. But let's start off with our PMT. So the PMT, which is the installment of our instrument, all right? So the installment of our instrument, it is sitting at, so we can see it's 7.35%. 7.35% of how much? Of 2.5 million. All right, so we have 7.35% times the capital amount. Remember, interest is calculated on the capital amount, the amount you receive from the loan. Then we always said we use after tax amount, so don't forget that. All right, so you have 7.35% times 2.5 times 72%. So it will take us there. All right, and then I, we have already calculated, it's 6.732%. And then future value, right? How much are you going to repay in this regard? So you're told you're going to repay the capital amount, which is 2.5%. All right, so you have 2.5 plus what? 80,000, which is tax deductible. So in this case, we need to adjust this 80,000 with an amount that you're going to save on tax. All right, so which means you have 80,000 times 72%. All right, so each and every amount that is tax deductible, you remove the tax amount there. All right, so 2.5 plus 80 million. All right, so in this regard, it will take you there. All right, then N, so you're looking at the period from after year end. All right, how long is it going to take you to repay this? So you have 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So your N will be 6 years. So your N is sitting at 6, all right? And then after that, of course, we can compute the present value. All right, so let's quickly work out how much is our PV in regards to this. So red, 6.73%. And then semicolon, then N6, semicolon, PMT, 132,300. And then future value is 255,7,600. You close your bracket. All right. So it will then give you your future value, a present value. All right. So that is how we calculate our balances. So we're sitting with this amount. Right, so we have done the calculations, then you add. All right, so you add all your market values from the table. So you add all of them. So you add them. So you get your total there. All right, so the weight. So for weight, you're going to take this market value of equity divided by the total. All right, then you come to long-term loans. You take the market value, you divide by your total. All right. You do the same for debenture. You take, sorry, for the bond, you take the market value of the bond divided by the total. You do the same for debentures. You take market value divided by the totals. All right. So in this regard, that is basically how you go about it. All right, in regards to your calculations. All right, you can leave your amounts to 4 decimals. Then for work. You know, so in terms of work now, you're going to take, we said work is equal to weight times cost. So that's what will give you work. So work, you're going to take the weight, multiply by your cost. All right. So in this regard, I'm just going to put through my formula there. All right. So it will give me this. All right. So that's what will give me my work. All right. So it will be like this. All right, and then in percentage, all right, so what did we do? So we took this times this, it gives us 9 point. This times this, it gives us 2 point. This times this, it gives us this. This times this, it gives us this. Then you add everything now. So you add all your work amounts. So that's what will give you your final weighted average cost of capital. So your final answer, all right, that we have as your work, it will be 12.51. I don't know if there's any questions, guys, before we close. Any questions, guys?
No questions on my side.
All right, others?
We're fine. We're fine.
Okay. All right. So, as you guys saw that, sometimes there's some little bit of uneasy things, right? You can see there's 1 or 2 things which you guys may not be comfortable with there. All right. So in terms of this, I strongly advise that you guys you do look at this question, right? Run through it again, and then if you can, right, practice other questions as well. And if you feel like you're lost, right, always ask, guys. My door is always open. You can post a question anytime, right? If I'm free, I'll definitely respond at that time. But if I'm occupied, I'll respond. I might delay, but I'll definitely respond. All right. Have a lovely evening, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.